Hello, I'm Toycat, and you're not going to believe the news that we just heard, because although there was no news yesterday, it seems as though they were actually building up to this, because Minecraft 1.15 has officially had its first pre-release, and that means there's a brand new menu screen, because again, this is the 1.15 update, pretty much finished. It's now available to play in a pretty finished, finalized form, but as well as that being a thing, which is pretty exciting, we also have the fact that this update has an official release date for the finalized version, and we also have its finalized name, which is going to be the Buzzy update, coming out on December the 10th for everyone on the Java edition. That means we can expect the Bedrock update to come around the same time. There's no pre-releases on Bedrock though, which means I can show the finalized version of this on Java for now, and then when it officially comes out, we'll talk about the Bedrock version some more. But for now, let's talk about Minecraft 1.15 pre-release 1, the first pre-release of the 1.15 Buzzy Bees update. And yeah, it's a really interesting update for a lot of reasons, but it's also not a very good fit for the point theme, because the last couple of updates we had, 1.13 and 1.14, have kind of changed the game in huge, extreme ways. The 1.15 update doesn't do that, and in fact, it's one of the smallest major updates we've had to Minecraft Java Edition in quite some time, and let me explain exactly why that is, and all of the features that make that true, the first of which, of course, has to be bees, right? In fact, the headline feature of this update, the only real feature in this update, is going to be the bees. There are other features, of course, that tie into bees and are related to bees, and some of which aren't related to bees, but are very small by themselves, but this is very much an update to add one new mob to the game, and if it wasn't such a meme mob, I would be more upset with the update. But again, who can't look at these guys and say, what is this? How is this a real thing? Because it is a real thing. As ridiculous as it sounds, as ridiculous as they look, these are a brand new mob you can find in Minecraft. And they do follow a lot of the rules about how mobs in Minecraft work, such as being attracted by a particular item. In this case, it's flowers. And that means you can also breed them with this. And this is, again, the cutest feature in the entire update. You can officially breed bees, and that means you can make baby bees. This is a real thing in this update. And again, if if it weren't for this being such an adorable, ridiculous, memey feature, I think this update would be a total flop. But again, who can look at this baby bee and be like, oh yeah, that's such a terrible feature? I can't, that's for sure. You'd have to be a monster to look at this and say, yeah, actually, we could do better, because again, it's adorable. But let's talk about the other features that are related to bees, because if you want to find bees, you're going to find them in most of the forest-related biomes, the sunflower plains as well, and the way you'll find them is around, and in and around, I should say, these bee nests right here. So bee nests are a naturally spawning block that are going to change the generation of Minecraft. So if you have an existing world, you'll have to explore new chunks to find these bee nests. If you don't have an existing world, you'll find them in the forest kind of naturally. And yeah, bee nests are going to contain bees, and whenever a bee finds a flower, it pollinates the flower and brings some honey back to the nest. When 5 honey is brought back to the nest, then you have a full bee nest, which you can do 2 things with. You can fill it with, oh god, they do not like when you take their honey. I always forget that. They sting you, and that means they're eventually going to die, so joke's on the bees, really. But also, the thing you can do is you can shear the nest, and you can get some honeycomb from it. Again, bees, generally speaking, do not like when you steal their stuff. You know, actually, it's not just bees, it's me too. Don't steal my stuff either. Pro tips of Toycat, I think I genuinely am going to die from bees. This is a first in Minecraft history. But yeah, let's say you get poisoned, perhaps by bees. How could you fix that? Well, fun thing is, the honey bottle actually is one of the cures, because honey will cure most poisonous effects. That's right, there is a brand new food in Minecraft that is actually a drink, although it's a drinkable food, you could say. You know what, is soup a food or is soup a drink? You tell me, internet. But yeah, in the same way that soup is debatably both those things, you can find honey bottles now, which will cure poison effects, and show you it's not just bees that it will cure, because I don't think that's how it works in real life. If we drink a poisonous potion, as you can see, we're being poisoned right now, except let's drink a honey bottle, and not only will our hunger go up, but also our poison will go down. So the way this has changed since I first spoke about it is now honey bottles stack, which makes them a significantly better food. It's like a bucket of milk, but way better, because it also heals hunger, and also can stack up to 15. So yeah, we have a brand new bucket of milk, and it's a bottle of honey, which, I mean, honey is sweeter than milk, so makes sense to me, I think. So although honeycomb looks pretty, and although honey is also a very good food source, or, I'd say it's an okay food source that happens to, heal you as well, we also have interesting double effects for both of these items. So with honey bottles, you can take these together, and you can obviously make a honey block with 4 of them, which is kind of like a slime block. We'll get into that more later. And you can also, if you so choose, you can use just a single one of them to make sugar. So we have a brand new source of sugar, a brand new block added to Minecraft, and then we also have another brand new block, which is 4 honeycombs combined together, which makes this one right here. So unlike the honey block, which is actually kind of interesting and has its own effects, the honeycomb block is purely decorative. I think it's very interesting looking, but I don't think it's going to tie into most of your existing builds. So again, it's kind of like a dead-end feature that's a way to use honeycomb. The other way to use honeycomb, though, is way more useful, because if you use the recipe I'll show you on screen right now, you can make bee nests. So this is the second way you can store bees. You might notice how these things look suspiciously like these things, but maybe a bit less natural, because yeah, if you want a beehive, you can use Silk Touch to get it, but most people aren't going to be doing that, especially early game. So the better way to do it is to craft yourself a bee nest, or yeah, a beehive I should say, because the bee nest is the natural one. The beehive is this guy over here. So the beehive is pretty much the same as the bee nest, with the really cool benefit that when you steal their stuff, they're not mad at you, because they exist to serve your needs, I think you'll find. Also, if you want to make them even more docile, you can actually place a campfire underneath them, and like in real life, as we learned from the bee movie, you smoke out bees, and then they get way more neutral about things, unless they get set on fire, in which case they're not happy with that. But yeah, fun fact, you can actually smoke bees if you want to make them super chilled out. And yeah, this is a brand new way to get honey on a mass scale, or honeycomb on a mass scale. Oh god, they are not happy with that one right there. You can get honey on a mass scale if you really want to, and you can get honeycomb on a mass scale using the same logic. Bees are really angry when you steal their stuff. You know, everyone's always talking about how great bees are because they pollinate our stuff. Have you ever considered how monstrous bees are? That's what I'm learning from this Minecraft update. So yeah, you can get bees, you can use bees, and you can use the bee nest, the brand new way to get them, to produce yourself a lot of honey, or a lot of honeycomb, which can be used to then make, after that, the beehives in larger quantities, or the honeycomb blocks, or the most important one, the thing I think most people do cool things with, which is the honey block itself. This thing right here, which looks suspiciously like a slime block, right? I mean, if you compare the two blocks next to each other, you're going to see how they're both very sticky blocks in Minecraft that even have the same effect when you put them on a piston, of like they stick to things, but they have a really interesting cool effect, which is that the yellow slime block, or the honey block, it doesn't actually stick to slime blocks. They won't stick to each other, which is something redstone people were very, very hyped for. So to see it in Minecraft is pretty cool. As you can see, it sticks to other blocks, but it doesn't stick to the other type, which is somewhat counterintuitive on a logical level, but on a gameplay level, it makes a lot of cool redstone things possible. Again, I'll update you as we learn more about those in the future, but these are the major features in this update. These are the major things in this pre-release, and yeah, this is what you can expect coming to Minecraft in literally 2.5 weeks or so. By the way, the bigger difference between slime and honey is slime blocks, they make you bounce. Again, it's a sticky bounce kind of sticky, which doesn't really make sense. I guess some sticky things are bouncy, whereas honey is sticky in the sense that like, oh no, my hands are sticky, I can't get off it. So you can't jump properly on honey, so if you want to, say, jump on this block, you can't do that. You have to fall off it the normal way, which is kind of interesting. It also slows you down, which is kind of cool. Also, this is my favorite use for it. Again, I don't know where you use this in your real Minecraft world, but you can slide down honey and avoid full damage. Look at this. It is ridiculous that this is a thing, but it is very much a real thing. So yeah, you can slide down honey, you can stick to honey, and it's probably going to be useful for map makers in that way, and also it's going to be very useful for redstone makers. It's a complex block that isn't great looking and isn't great in its default functionality, but it has so much potential coming after that, that is the honey block right there. So that is every major feature in this update, by the way. That is all of it. It is literally the bees, it is literally the bee nests, the beehives, the honeycomb, the honey, and then there's the honey block itself. We're talking about 6 features in this update for the most part that are brand new and are coming. You know, and we're talking about 6 months of development to get there, because although there are never updates in development right now too, this is kind of what we've seen right now. It's not the most impressive update in the world, and again, this is mostly just down to the fact that it's a very small update. They want to get to the 2-a-year system, and I guess that means one of the updates has to be small. Fair enough, I guess, because again, bees are memey enough that I feel like it's justified. I don't know if they could release another update this small and still have it not dilute the value of Minecraft updates, but that's just my opinion. Let's talk about the features that aren't bees though, because I think most of you are aware of the general theme of this update, because of the fact that it's barely changed since it was revealed you know, some months ago. So let's talk about everything else a little bit, shall we? So first of all, let's talk about the fact that now bells, when they get hit with redstone signal, will ring. So as you can see, it's a ringing bell. Also, I'm using the same redstone circuit right here to show you that fireworks, kind of like they did on the old console edition, will now fire sideways if you fire them from a sideways dispenser. Also, here's a fun interaction you might not have known before. If you actually use, if you use fireworks anywhere near honey, they actually kind of get stuck near them too in a really interesting, weird way. So there's a fun fact you previously might not have been aware of. Speaking of a fact you might not have known, in this update, they're changing campfires to be more like bedrock. You can put them out with a shovel. I don't actually think putting out campfires is a thing I want to do too much of the time, but it's a thing you totally can do if you really want to using the shovel. Also, we have the fact that if you take wet sponges to the nether, this is something I did on Bedrock for my 1,000 sponge video series thing. Where did I get 1,000 sponges? I haven't used them yet. I really should find a project to justify having 1,000 sponges. But yeah, you take a wet sponge into the nether, as you can see, immediately becomes a dry sponge. And then you can break the dry sponge, and what's that? You now have a dry sponge in your inventory. Wait, so wet sponge, dry sponge. So break the sponge, get a dry sponge. Place down the wet sponge, and as you can see, it's a way to convert them. It's actually not the most efficient way. I kind of only did it in my 1,000 sponge video to be more useful, but now you know that's a thing you can totally do. Other things you can totally do include breaking iron doors with an iron pickaxe to get the block. This used to be possible with any block that you broke it with, but now if you use your fist, which I'm not going to simulate, actually not, let's simulate it. Because my favorite thing in Minecraft is breaking things with my fist to show that they don't drop their results, especially when the thing is made out of literal iron, and as you can see, you don't get the thing back. As a pro tip though, if you ever want to get the iron door, all you have to do is break it from below, it drops, and then you get the door. So yeah, iron doors might seem like they're super powerful, but all you need to know is that. However, now if you break the door itself with your fist, which you shouldn't really ever be doing, but break the door itself with your fist, and you won't get the door back. You have to use a pickaxe of iron quality or above. Interesting change, right? Speaking of interesting changes, because again, you might notice it's next to a bunch of endstone bricks here, let me show you something which I think is a really random but kind of cool change. They've given endstone bricks a much better blast resistance and durability, which means that as you can see right here, there's a TNT block surrounded by endstone bricks. You might previously expect all of the endstone bricks to break, but now as you can see, despite all of those blocks being hit, we broke 24 of them, but all of these ones survived and the ground is perfectly intact. Just a single endstone brick in most directions, in some it was two, but just a single endstone brick in most directions will protect most other blocks from harm and will protect other things like that. And this seems somewhat useless on the surface, because how often are you blowing up your own end bricks? At least if you're a survival player like me, that's not a thing you're probably doing. However, the real use in this is not in blowing up your own blocks or in using them as a safeguard from other people's explosions, but instead it means that now when you go to the nether, they are 100% safe from ghast attacks because they've got a blast resistance high enough to avoid that. So yeah, endstone bricks are now much better. They used to have a ridiculously low blast resistance, which to me never made sense because endstone was a solid enough block and then you made it more solid by making it into bricks. And now they've kind of fixed that logical inconsistency, and who doesn't love it when Minecraft fixes logical inconsistencies? It's my favorite thing, at least. So next up, we've got large ferns, which, because previously, you want to get seeds, you got to break the grass, normal grass. But now, if you break large ferns, mostly found in taiga biomes, you've got a chance of getting seeds from them too. Again, it's a fairly small feature, but it proves a point I've said a million times before, that most plant life and most useless features in Minecraft slowly get uses added, and although this isn't the most amazing use, if you broke all your large ferns before now, you'd feel silly because you didn't get the small number of seeds. Although, realistically, you still shouldn't break large ferns, you should shear them up, and you should take them into your nether with you or whatever ridiculous things like that. I think I put large ferns in my nether, but you can put them in places. It's interesting, in my opinion. That's a thing you can do. Although, get silk touch on your ferns, clearly, or you just get a bunch of miniature ferns. But whatever. Anyway, with that said, let's move on to the next one here, because here is a pumpkin plant, and here is a melon stem. Now, as of this update, if you break them, kind of going back to a previous thing, you get the seeds of the thing back rather than getting nothing back. So yeah, as you can see, melon stem turns into some melon seeds. In fact, turns into 2 melon seeds. So one of the ways you can quickly get seeds if you want to, and you don't want to wait for things to grow, is you can just like, oh yeah, let's take some bone meal. You need a lot more than 1 bone meal, but you can bone meal the plant all the way up. You can get 2 of the seeds, and then you can do that over and over again until salvation or whatever. So yeah, with that said, now you know how to grow melons fast, which is actually surprisingly useful given their usefulness in trading in Minecraft villages. Speaking of things that are useful, let's talk about the exact opposite, because now they have increased the amount of furnace smelting that you get when you put bolts into a furnace. You might say, wait a minute, you could put bolts in furnaces? You can, and previously you would get 1 item to smelt from it. Now you'll get 5 items to smelt, and 5 more items, I should say, for 6 total. Is that a thing that has value? Not to me, maybe to you though. Also, you can smelt scaffolding and you get more value from that as well. Is that a thing you should be doing? That's something I'll leave for you to say. I think you should just put bamboo in there, because bamboo's easier to find and requires less crafting, but still, I'm not the boss of you. You can smelt boats and you get better results. You can smelt scaffolding and you'll get better results as well. Should you be doing either? You know what? I believe that's your decision. Kind of like, here's an interesting one, right? One of the changes they made in this update is positive for 99.99% of players, but is arguably negative for like 0.01, because one of the ways you could check whether you were facing south, north, east, or west in Minecraft was the, it's called the southeast rule. Minecraft tracks would go towards the south, and then they'd go towards the east after that. However, now in Minecraft, the way a track faces when you place it is based on your position. So this is way more logical for, again, most players who don't know about the southeast rule in Minecraft. However, yeah, now if you want to place track, again, it's more logical. It follows your direction. It'll always follow what you want to place, but it means you can't work out north or south based on your Minecraft tracks. Again, not that it's so important, because admittedly, most of the time, admittedly, let's just be frank right here. Most people don't know it, and most of the time it wasn't the way you'd use anyway. However, it is a big change and one you've got to get used to. So yeah, just keep that in mind. They've made a change to the way these things work, and now you know. Although I think you can still use it, this four-way kind of track thing, as a testing point anyway. So yeah, whatever. Now you know. Minecraft facts. Very useful. Most players. A part of me is sad, but also a part of me hasn't used it in over 4 years. So it's like, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Rails makes sense now after literally 9 years of not making sense. Sure, why not, you know? Speaking of sure, why not, let's go back to the furnace now, because as you can see, the scaffolding is smelting the coal into coal, which is a very efficient use of furnace fuel, by the way, and it's doing so at a pretty decent rate, at least compared to what it was doing before. So there you go. Fun fact with Toy Cat. Now bear in mind, there's a lot of other small changes in this, such as they changed the composter recipe to match bedrock. They changed a lot of things to match bedrock. They even did something I think is really interesting, which is they added birch trees to the roof forest biome, or the dark forest as the game calls it these days. You know, roof forest, dark forest. It's the forest with dark oak in it, but you'll notice how if you look around this, forest after the update, you're going to be able to find some birch trees. Oh wait, this is a world generated in one of the snapshots before they made that change, which means I can give you a nice before and after. Look, here's a village, and here is a thing. Let me show you what it looks like after. So here is the same seed, which interestingly, as you can see, at some point during the snapshot, they removed the village placement, or the chance for it to place over there, which I think is the more interesting thing. But you can also see how, unlike before, now there are random birch, trees nestled in with the dark forest. So is that a big change? You tell me, and I'll tell you that I disagree, because I think, like, realistically speaking, birch trees are not unabundant. I mean, there's literally a whole forest of them just over here. If you have a problem finding birch trees and you don't have a regular forest, you just have plains, you just have swamp, and you just have a dark forest or a roof forest, you can now use those things together and magically find yourself some birch trees. So let's cut back to the title screen, because I like it. I think it's quite wonderful. And let's talk a little bit about this update as a whole, because like I said, it's cool that they updated Minecraft. 1.15 is great, and I'm glad that at the same time 1.15 comes out, which is in again, just over 2 weeks, in case you're curious, that there is going to be a Bedrock update in the same time frame. So I think that's cool. I think a brand new update just for the holiday season is a wonderful idea. I think December 10th is a great time, because it means they can bug fix anything that's urgent before the staff leave the office. However, I think this is a pretty small update that isn't going to change the way I play Minecraft in the slightest. There are going to be some redstone users very happy. There are going to be some map makers who are very happy. Or not even very happy, are going to be mildly happy. But for most users, this is a meme update. They added bees, and that's funny. And I don't know if the two, the months of lead up into this made this any better. I think they could have just got the update ready as a surprise, just pulled it out there as a weird new thing. I think going through the normal snapshot process, going through the pre-release process for an update so small, kind of killed it in this case. I think that 1.16, the Never update, definitely needs snapshots, and it needs player feedback, and it needs those sorts of things. I don't think this update had much player feedback besides the honey block, which therefore, because of players' demands, didn't stick to slime. I think everything else didn't really need the feedback from people in the slightest, and I think it could have just probably released mostly as the thing it was, and it would have been more fun to have our first surprise update in forever, whereas the months of build up into what people were expecting to be more and then turned out to be this, it's kind of made you question, like, is this going to be one of the worst updates when you look back at it, or is this going to be like a, they added bees, it was fun update? I don't know how we'll look back historically, I just know that in 2 weeks you can play around with bees, and that's fun, right? Anyway, I must be on my way right now because I'm going to be streaming on YouTube in about an hour. Actually, very shortly. I've got a stream to be doing, so I'm going to head off and do that right now. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you on December 10th for the full release on Bedrock, because again, I cover the pre-releases on Java because they're a Java exclusive thing, but when the Bedrock version has its full update, I'm going to be covering all of that, let you know the differences between the Bedrock and the Java one, and all these sorts of things that I'm sure you want to know about. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, because I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.